tell you, first of all, let's cheer for DeJear. Yeah! I love to talk to people and start off with a little bit of happy. And I tell you, this woman helps me feel happy and invigorates me because she has ideas and her ideas work. But today, we are at a rallying point, because instead of a celebration, we have to be here and we have to contemplate where we're going to be 4 years from now. 4 years from now, will we have the right to vote?
Yeah.
4 years from now, doesn't matter how I dress, if I can use the bathroom in public.
It's serious.
You know, Moms Demand Action talks about responsible gun ownership, and I think all the time, we live in a state where you can actually have relaxed gun laws while they're at the same time tightening up voter restrictions.
No.
You know, Royce Ann always says, make it make sense. I'm running for the State House, and if Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today, I couldn't make it make sense to him why he would have to wake up every day and watch his life's work being pulled apart and being dismantled. Why the rollback? It wouldn't make sense, and I can't make that make sense to him any more than I can make it make sense to me. I look at COVID-19, and as COVID has a family and it grows, what I see, you know the family, Delta, and then little baby Omicron. It seems like as its family grows, our family shrink from all the death. My family's been horribly affected by it. And they talk about the euphemism, oh, they're in a far better place. And I think about Martin Luther King Jr. And I think how that euphemism applies to him. He's in a far better place. Is it really a euphemism though? You know, when he wakes, he's not gonna wake up and being attacked to the dismantling, the systemic dismantling of democracy, something he cherished. He won't wake up to that because where he is, he can't hear it or see it. He's in a far better place. And I want to talk about the concept of a far better place. When we look up 4 years from now, I want to know, do we have the type of governor that is putting things in place where people that need their social safety net have access to it, not just the ones that do things like walking off the job in protest of COVID, and it makes their agenda look good, they'll have access to it, but regular people are cut off of the unemployment rolls that are entitled to it. No, we don't want that kind of governor. And we have the power to stop it. Mm-hmm. We can do something about it. Yeah. In Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, my mother was alive then. She was born in 1930. So she marched. My mother's name was Maddie. And she was in the South, Memphis, Tennessee, and she marched. They had fewer resources than we did. The laws were not on their side. They ended up in jail. All we have to do to protect what we got is link up, link arm in arm, and don't vote alone. Take somebody to the poll with you. Where people have stopped believing in the issues and in government, they believe in you. Everybody here knows somebody that trusts them, comes to them for advice, cares about them. Don't leave them in the cold. Get them and link up, arm in arm, like Martin Luther King Jr. did as he crossed that bridge. Link up together. Go vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because the life that we live 4 years from now does depend on it. I thank you. And I give to you, Deidre DeJear, the next governor of Iowa.
Leave it up to two Teamsters to not need a microphone. Leave it up to two. I am just so grateful to be with you all today. I am grateful for your leadership, Roxanne, and I'm grateful for your, Roxanne Roysan, and I'm grateful for your leadership, Tony, and I think we're gonna have to add another title to one of your names, Pastor, because this pulpit is not all down. Needless to say, we are here on a very, very important day, MLK Day. And I'm grateful for the King family, and not only lifting up Dr. King and everything that he fought for, but I'm grateful for the King family for continuing his legacy and lifting up voting, because Coretta Scott King, and I'm going to characterize her comments in a very, very shortened way, but she said the fight for justice is fought at every generation.
Oh yeah.
Every generation. And to lead on to another friend of the King family, John Lewis, who said, if not us, then who? And so here we are, another opportunity to fight for justice. Here we are, standing in solidarity to fight for justice. Two components of the equation that are incredibly important. This is how we move forward, though, collectively, because we're showing up in belief. We're showing up in solidarity, and we're willing to do something about it. Let me remind you of the first election. The first election in this country where only white male landowners could vote. It wasn't enough to simply be white. You had to have money and you had to own land.
Yeah.
But over time, this country has come to terms with what true democracy means and what true democracy can afford each and every one of us. Women were able to acquire the right to vote. And we know it wasn't all women, it was some women. But it was all women who stood on the battleground to get that right to vote. Later on, we expanded the opportunity to vote, and not only did we expand the opportunity to vote, but we took away a great deal of restrictions when the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. A huge accomplishment for this country. 79 state senators said, or federal senators said, this is a good idea. This is a good idea to stand in the gap of democracy to ensure that each and every person has their right to vote with no burden to their access to the ballot box. A good idea, and it worked. It worked. Not only did it work, in 2006, again, Senate had an opportunity to vote, to recertify the Voting Rights Act. 98 of them did, right? In the beginning, it was less than 80. Then we had nearly 100 who were ready to stand in the gap for voting rights. Yet today, voting rights is not a bipartisan issue. It's a partisan issue. We're leaning on 2 Democrats holding it for the entire Senate. And that is not where we should be. We understand how far we've come, but we also understand how far we need to go. And today we need to remind everyone that voting rights is not a partisan issue. Even though democracy is a part of the Democratic Party, voting rights is not just a Democratic issue. It is an issue for all of us. All of us. And if we can establish that in Iowa, if we can show the world in this state how much voting rights means to us, then that is what we should do. And this should give us a little bit of hope. Remember redistricting, everyone. Remember that long process. I was on the track commission in the beginning before I launched my run for governor, but there was all sorts of wild thoughts about what was going to happen to redistricting in this state, especially considering the fact that we had passed 2 extremely voter restriction laws that added no value to Iowa. So we were up in arms. We had no idea, but guess what happened? Our state senators and our state legislators all together stood in the gap for voting rights. They upheld Iowa's gold standard to redistricting. And it gave me a great deal of hope as a voter in Iowa. It gave me a great deal of hope in Iowa, right? And so we know that Iowa legislators can stand in the gap for voting rights. Then it's time then we tell our federal representation that they too should stand in the gap for voting rights. And that doesn't mean Cindy Axton can't do it by herself. No. We need Joni Ernst. We need Chuck Grassley. We need Miller Meeks. We need Hinton. We need everybody to align with voting rights in this state. Because Iowa is a place that not only believes in voting, but we believe in doing good.
Yeah.
And right now, we've got a great deal of restrictions that have been led by the Republican Party, and we have to interrupt that cycle now. And I want each and every one of you all to know that you can do something about it, as Tony said. But we don't do it by ourselves. So let's not just lean on our Democratic folks to get us through this. We've got to lean on everybody. It should be a mandate. I'm originally from Mississippi. You all know that. And the fight that my people had to go through, losing their job, losing their dignity, waking up to crosses being burned in the front of their yard, we're not going back. We're not going back. And all indications show us that under the leadership of this current governor, we're taking steps back. Yes, we are. We're taking that back in education. We were once number one. Yeah. Now we're 18, 19, 20 on the list. That's not where Iowa belongs. No. That's not where Iowa belongs. No. In mental health care worker availability, we're 44th on the list. That's not where Iowa belongs. No. You know, I could go on and on about how we're farther and farther down the list. This is our indicator, folks. We need new leadership. Yeah! And so as we march, rolling in our vehicles today, if you are in the passenger side of your friend's ride, I need you to start getting on social media. I need you to lift up voting rights. I need you to tell America where voting rights stands. And where people should stand, and what should not happen, ever, is that laws stand in the way of democracy, ever. I appreciate you all for standing up for these rights. I appreciate your support in my governor's campaign. Let's go make some change happen. Yeah!